Hello. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Well, good morning, my time. It's good to see everyone here today. I'm getting all set up a little bit late today, but that's okay. I'm live. It's hard. This is really hard. I was given this challenge to go live and talk business stuff for 3 days, for 1 week, and go live for 3 days. And I decided to keep going. I can't do anything that is just, a single uh, request. It's like I have to double it. You ever anybody else feel that way? Like somebody challenges me to do something, I'm gonna like go above and beyond that. So I was challenged to go live 3 times in 1 week, and I made a commitment to myself to go live every weekday for the month of October. I've pretty much done that unless I had, a business meeting or something important to do. Tomorrow morning, for example, I have a brunch luncheon that I have to go to, so I won't make my morning live. But for the most part, it's a lot. It's a lot to do it, but I'm doing it. I'm doing it, and I'm learning a ton. So I highly recommend to anyone who hasn't gone live, do it when you don't really have a lot of followers like me. Hello. I don't have very many followers, and I get to sort of test this out and play with it and see what works and what doesn't work. And so today I'm going to talk about how somebody tried to shut me down this weekend. I got a message from a relative of mine who told me to stay in my lane, that I posted about politics instead of just about business, and that was unacceptable for some reason in that person's mind. Now, I've read the Mel Robbins book, Let Them. I know the actual, like adult response to somebody telling you not to do something and to stay in your lane should be to let that shit go, and that person is, moot. Uh it does sting a little harder when it's your family. And that shouldn't, but it does. And so it makes you question like people's comments. And I think if it was more of a random person, it wouldn't bother me, right? Like, come at me. Give me your opinions, please, because it gives me more fodder. But when it's your family, it's a little more like, right? And so the main thing to that is that, would this family member have said that to a male person in my family? I don't think so. I don't think so. Um, so anyway, I digress. But what I really wanted to dive into here, because of that, because someone told me to stay in my lane and that I'm not supposed to talk about politics on a business channel, is to combat that with the fact that business is politics. Like, that is the truth of the way that the United States was founded and created and built, is on the fundamentals of business and politics, and that we have states' rights and states govern companies, and that's the way that businesses are built. In fact, if you haven't created your own business in the United States of America, there are rules for how you have to create your corporation or your business. So that was a big learning for me, because the first time I created a business, I hadn't done that before. I'd always been an employee. I'd always worked for other people. So I filled out, a W-2, and I paid my taxes, and I have a 401k. And so as a person that works for corporations, as an employee, you have rights as an employee for sure. And you build yourself in your W-2, and you file taxes, and it's the way that you're structured in the government. That is the political way that you're structured in the government as an employee. Now, once you decide to make your own business, that is also a structure in the political state, whatever state you live in. You have to have a federal EIN. That is a federal level that you're taxed and you're governed from a federal level. But we all also have to be governed and taxed at a state level. We have states' rights, we have states' politics. So business and state is one and the same. So when someone told me to stay in my lane and not talk about politics on my channel, this sort of just pokes the bear to say, oh, you want me to stay in my lane and not talk about politics? But politics is business. Okay. Each and every single one of the states governs business differently. And the way that we set up as businesses depends on what state you're in. So, for any of those of you who have small businesses, you should have an LLC or an S Corp, right? You have to set yourself up as a business. And it's an extra step, right? It's hard. You have to pay money, you have to like file paperwork. And if you don't do that, then you're actually not in compliance. You're not in compliance as a business. You could have somebody, come after you and sue you because a client thinks that you didn't perform the duties of which you had intended. You should also have business contracts, right? So that you have deliverables for each of your clients and the way that you're guaranteeing work, right? And so if somebody tries to come and sue you or tries to say that you didn't deliver what you said you were going to deliver, you're protected under your company. So you should have a company. Everyone should have a business, especially in the United States of America. We should have a business, an LLC or an S Corp. And when you will operate underneath that business. Those rules and the legal requirements that are required under your business govern a lot of different things. So politics plays a role in our business. So first and foremost, let's say you have, for me, for example, I have an S Corp. I decided to create an S Corp for my business back in 2014 when I created my first business because I could not have to pay $800 the first year. It was like not really, I didn't know why I wanted to create an S Corp versus an LLC. I didn't understand the taxable differences between what you get and what you don't get. Now I do. Now I really understand the differences between those. And I recommend to people to get a corporation because if you start with a corporation, you can build different lines of LLC underneath that. And different protections come from having a corporation. And so I personally have a corporation that I started back in 2014. Now, the corporation that I created did two things. One, I have a federal EIN. Okay, so my federal requirements, my federal duties to the United States, I operate under an EIN, an employee identification number. I should know what that means. You need an EIN. So you have an EIN for your federal part of your business, but then depending on what state you live in. Now, different states have different rules. So for me, I currently live in California. So California has this rule for corporations that I didn't have to pay the $800 for the first year. So I was in. I decided to go that route for California and start a corporation in California because I didn't have to pay $800 my first year. Now, again, I have learned so many things about building a business that I would do it all over again the exact same way. Actually, I would build a corporation. And for me, I built one in California. So I'm governed under my California EIN. Like I have my own California code, and that code is governed by the state of California. And this is true for every single state. Every single state has rules and governance for business that relates to politics. So again, when somebody tries to tell me, stay in your own lane, don't talk about politics on your business channel, big ol' to that, because business is politics. Our companies, our businesses are governed by the state. We have states' rights. So depending on the state that you're in, you have different rules. So right now, for example, in the state of Montana, if people are following, they have some pretty great rules in Montana, and their way that they built out their actual what is it called? I'm gonna look at my notes right here, but it's what is it's not a ballot measure, it's their constitution. Their constitution, right? So every state has their own constitution. We have a federal constitution, and then we have a state's constitution. So in the state constitution for Montana, they have very clear rules about corporations and what corporations can and can't do and operate under the state. So right now in Montana, they're having a lot of great conversations about limiting political contributions from corporations to politics and writing that into their constitution. So not just a bill, not just a law, but like rewriting their constitution in the state of Montana right now in 2025 because of political donations by companies. So again, every state has their own rules and laws about what you can and can't do in regards to campaign contributions by companies. So I should know more what California's rule is. I don't actually know. But I know that it's, this is a lot of the talking points that we are talking a lot about when it comes to business and politics in the United States right now. And so because of that, Montana is in the news a lot because they're talking about changing their constitution and around their contributions that corporations and companies can make towards politics. So this does relate to business. How we talk about business and the things that we need to do to set up ourselves correctly as a business do correlate exactly. It like matches to politics. So politics is a part of business. I also think that would help smooth over and bridge a lot of the gap that we have if we just start talking about more things more openly. Then that actually opens more conversation. And the old adage of like, don't talk about it, that's not polite dinner conversation, uh, keeps people down. It's like, I'll go back to, for example, the concept of not talking about salary with your coworkers. Okay. When I very first started working in my corporate career in 2003, that was definitely very true. People truly believed that you should not talk about how much you make with your coworkers. And that was a no-no. But my good friend and I, who we, met very early on in our careers, and we'd go get lunch together, and we started talking about it because we talked about all kinds of things. We talked about religion, we talked about politics, we talked about money, and those kinds of things bridged gaps and allowed us to grow faster and grow more together because we worked together to talk about these things. And so this good friend of mine, we talked about how much we were making. And then we continued to talk about how much we were making. And we have for 20 years, 20 plus years. How long have we known each other? Over 2 decades. We always talk about how much money we've made or are making so that we can negotiate our salaries together. Because who does it benefit if we don't talk about it? Right? Always follow the money. Who does it benefit if we don't talk about it? The corporations, right? The businesses that you work for. When you're an employee, if you're not talking about it with each other, then it benefits the company, right? Now, us as business owners, we're like, shit, our employees are talking about it. Well, just pay people evenly. Don't pay women less than you pay men for the same job. Like, hello. It should make sense, but it doesn't. I literally was talking to a friend on Friday about a male counterpart who she does way more work than the male counterpart, and she makes less money than the male counterpart. And when she found out, she was like, what the fuck? We should talk to each other about money. Money is business and money is politics. Okay. So today, again, I just want to kind of reiterate that I shared some political views on my channel this weekend because it's part of my brand. It's part of who I am. Like, if I want to show up authentically as myself online, then I need to show up as my full self. Okay. So if I'm going to tell other people, show up authentically and show up as your true self, then I need to talk the talk and walk the walk. So my political stance has been very much single issue. So if anyone knows what single issue is, it's basically deciding as your moral or your value what your single issue is, and however you vote always sort of leans back to that single issue. Some people are that way, some people aren't. I learned about single issue when I was in college, like 1999, 2000, when I was in undergrad at Texas A&M, an extremely conservative college. Okay, extremely conservative. I did not understand how conservative Texas A&M was, or I wouldn't have gone there. But Texas A&M is an extremely conservative college. That's where I went to undergrad. And when I was in undergrad, I had a moderate to liberal professor who taught us about single issue voting. And single issue voting just means you sort of pick what is your moral, your compass, your value that you stand for, that you believe in. And mine is women's rights. Anything that has to do with women's rights, that's my line. If it goes against a woman's right, then I'm against it. If it's for a woman's right, I'm for it. Like, that's it. Political leanings, whatever, all go on that line. So some people are political issue voters. Some people are not. That's my main one. I'm actually wearing a shirt today. It's an Alice and Olivia shirt about women's women's rights. So I wanted to power woman wear my Alice and Olivia shirt today to give me a little. That's why I bought it. Like, I bought this shirt to give me this power, this like power shirt of like women's rights, women's lib, feminism. This is the true core of who I am. This is what my business stands for. And if I'm going to be authentic and I'm going to show up authentically as myself, this is who I am. And as a business owner, we should know what our morals and our values are, and we stand for them. And some people are going to buy us because we stand for them, and some people are not going to buy us because they're against them. And that's true on whatever side you're on, right? Like, the more you try to middle line it, the more you try to like be in the middle on everything, you're not really like being authentic. It's kind of the way I personally look at it. Anyway, I could go on and talk about that specifically, but again, the point of my channel is to talk more about business, and I do talk mostly about business. But if I'm not authentically who I am, then I'm not being authentic. And somebody told me to stay in my lane. Literally, I was told to stay in my lane and not talk about politics by a family member, not just, some random troll on the internet. And that hurt, that like really hurt my feelings. And so I wanted to just push myself through those feelings and show up and let them talk about, have that belief if that's what they want. But business is politics. And what we do for our business depends on where we live, what country you live in, what state you live in, and sometimes what city you live in, because you're going to pay your federal taxes and you're going to be governed by the federal government. You're going to pay your state taxes as a business, and you're going to be governed by your state, and your city also has city taxes and you're going to be governed by your city. So all of those things are things you have to vote for. They are political, and it is how our businesses are governed. And so I just wanted to sort of wrap that sentiment at the end of my live today, and just thank everyone who showed up, and thank you for comments. Exactly. I appreciate it. And I'm going to continue to be a voice, and to voice my opinion about business and politics and things that I stand for, and be authentically me. And yeah, so thank you all for coming. I'm off tomorrow morning. I have a business breakfast, and I'm going to make a story about it. So I'll show you. The Chamber of Commerce here in Los Angeles is having a big fancy brunch that I get to go to. So I won't be live tomorrow, but I will be back on Wednesday. And yes, please follow me, subscribe, like, comment, and ask me questions. Please ask me questions, because then I can come and answer questions live on my lives. Okay. Thank you, everybody. All right. Bye.